Constant Worlds is a meta-disjointed journey through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. It's just an excuse to read a lot of Stephen King.
I'm Taryn, they, them, and I'm holding on for one more day.
I'm Kat, she, her.
Hold on
For one more day.
Things go your way.
I don't know most of that song.
Oh my god, I'm pretty sure I know that song, like every word of it. I know that they're restrained, but you hold on for one more day and you break free from the chains. I don't remember what instrument that is. I don't know if it's wind chimes or if it's...
Okay. Well, when this episode comes out, it should be my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy 25th birthday. No,
I don't want to be 25 again. I can't be 25 again.
Earned your hag realness.
There's only one way to become the witch in the woods, and that's by aging every fucking day.
I mean, you could also make a deal.
I could, yeah.
There's somebody who would take your remaining youth.
Anyways. So, we support trigger warnings and taking care of your own mental health. We are reading it. It's a very triggering book. So the following are just some of the trigger warnings for this book and thus this episode. Child death, racial slurs, racism, death, bullying, child abuse, sexual content, murder, violence, domestic abuse, homophobia, gore, suicide, fat phobia, animal cruelty, anti-Semitism, misogyny, pedophilia, sexual assault, and honestly, just a whole fuck of a lot more things than I could ever list.
Is it triggering? It's in the book.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I wasn't really making a joke.
Are you triggered by literally anything? This may not be a book you want to read.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little bit shocked I've made it this far.
You know, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Like, I'm very surprised at how far you have made it too, because like I wasn't sure with some of the that's in here.
I actually wonder if I could have made it further into misery, but I think it's because like this book makes me more mad than triggered, if that makes sense. So
That's fair. That's fair.
though one of the symptoms of being triggered is being mad. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got other shit going on. I'll just be honest.
Yep.
I'm busy.
That's probably best.
But not with your birthday. Your birthday is the opposite of triggering. It's a very happy day. And if there's one thing that we want to do for your birthday to celebrate, it's being dairy.
Oh, dairy. We read chapters 8 through Interlude 2, which is just the second half of part 2, and then Interlude 2 of it. And chapter 8, it begins with Richie's memories as he's driving down Route fucking 9 again.
Him driving is just a Californian sketch. Which, if you aren't familiar with SNL, is peak Bill Hader. Just the tiny world of Bill Hader roles.
Fair. But also it's Route 9, which is also from Misery and 9 in general. But Paul Sheldon fucked up his shit, I believe, on Route 9. And he found him on Route 9. This is a different Route 9 because it's not like in Colorado, but it's still a Route 9. Because Stephen King only knows one number. Well, two numbers. He knows two numbers.
Kids, get your kicks on Route inverted 6. Flipped over 6.
And just like the previous chapters, we begin with Richie's travel towards Derry and then descend into his memories.
Yeah, and he also was taking Route 9 because he was too stubborn to use the turnpike because it was anachronistic to him. I did make that note before we descended into his memories.
Fair.
It got to me. I'm like, you're doing this to yourself.
That sounds like Richie.
Fuck.
That sounds like a Stephen King character.
The real horror is self-inflicted. Always.
So we're back in the 1950s. We're back at that dam. The boys have been found by Mr. Nell, and Mr. Nell seemed really weird to me. Like, I don't know if that was just me, but that dude gave me some not so okay, like, energies.
I felt like Mr. Nell had the best reaction to the kids of any adult that they've encountered yet. He was like, look, I get it. Kids are going to be kids, but what the fuck are you doing down here? And also, Richie, why are you talking to me this way?
You know what it is? It was his whole, like, well, your parents don't got to find out about this. It's like, this is, like, because of everything else in this book, that was unsettling. I don't care if he was trying to do them a solid, like, that phrase with a bunch of young boys in, like, an area that is dangerous and shit like that, of just like, yeah, no, your parents don't need to find out about this. Unsettling.
I mean, I think from growing up in a small town, there's nothing more terrifying than the adult who knows all the parents coming across you doing the dumb. And you're like, well, shit.
That's fair, and I am perfectly open to that. I was uncomfortable with Mr. Nell.
No, and you know what? That's fair. And we'll keep eyes on Mr. Nell. Let's keep eyes on Mr. Nell. That's fair. I don't think in any Stephen King book it's a bad idea to keep eyes on any character that makes you a little uncomfortable. I think that's a great lesson moving forward. If the adult makes you uncomfortable, keep eyes on him.
Yeah. Mr. Nell has come to find out what the fuck is going on, because you can't build a dam that's blocking up a bunch of streams of water and have zero effect.
Well, they only had so much TV back then.
Yeah.
What else were they supposed to do?
So that shit gets noticed. It's not like trying to find the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in your fucking playground. There are consequences to stopping water.
Yeah, but these kids have never learned anything about consequences, clearly. I did enjoy Ben's I am Spartacus moment.
The moment that Richie denotes as the thing that changed everything. If he had just shut up.
I did the stupid, and I did the stupid, and I did the stupid.
Yep.
Yeah.
They has the dumb this day.
We all had the dumb that day, and we all claimed it.
That happens. Then Richie goes with Bill to check out the picture of George, because, you know, bleeding pictures and all. Things get weird, and they see themselves in the photo, but, like, in the 1930s. Bill reaches in and gets his fingers all sliced up. It's meant to be very trippy. Not gonna lie, glad that bit got cut out of the new movie, because that was stupid.
You know, I think I actually made the opposite note, that I had wanted that I had actually wanted that scene to have been in the new movie.
That's fair.
Because the way that it was written made it sound very cool. Like, just the image of him reaching into the picture, that was all very cool. But yeah, the actual like paper cuts bit, that was terrible. Though it was one of the first times in the book that, other than feeling kind of angry, I had legitimate, like, a visceral reaction, because that's something you've experienced.
Yeah.
And I was, I think at one point I actually shook my hand, because you know the pain of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it feels like to get, like, stabbed or have my armpit bit out, or honestly to have the shit kicked out of me. The way that they've described some of these characters, right? Or have my arm ripped off or whatever. You know a bad paper cut. Everybody's had a bad paper cut. That description, that shit hits home, I feel like. That was the first time that I really, like, connected. Was like, no.
I think that's probably really good then. He got ya. He finally got ya. Anyway, so Richie invites Ben to the movies, and when he's going to the movies, he comes across Bev, and he invites her too. It becomes a date. A very awkward date, but also, like, I'm not necessarily against some of the way that this went. I think it was, like, cute in some ways, but also fucking middle schoolers.
I actually made the note. Oh no, pining. I can't stand the pining. I did my time as a teenager. I don't want to be reminded of it any more than I want to think about having fucking... I wrote having fucking paperworks, but I think I meant having fucking paper cuts. Like, I don't... It's the same visceral, like, I already lived through this. I've had paper cuts. This makes sense. It was smart. The paper cuts were smart. The pining, the like, what is this feeling? I hate it, especially because I do see some of the queer in Richie.
Yeah.
Right? And I know from being the person that I am how confusing of a time that is. And I almost wonder if he's more watching Bill, who's the leader of the group, and Ben, who's not, both of them kind of getting more into Bev, and he's going, oh, I'm supposed to be... Now he could be a bicon. Don't get me wrong. Like, this could... And also, shit is confusing at that time. But I also wonder if it's more... Oh, this is where my... feelings and hormones are meant to be at, so I'm appropriately applying them here. And it was just...
Well, and what was interesting with that in general, on sort of the topic you're talking about here, is that he talks about how, like, the reason he likes Bev is because she's a good guy. And he does specify the word guy there, and then he starts talking about, like, well, I mean, I guess you don't do some of these things with guys or with girls. And it is a really... It's such a weird way to describe it. It also made me think of when Eddie was describing Bill as a good man. Like, this is just weird terminology to think of another, like, 11-year-old in.
Yes. And when we get further into the chapter, the stuff that they're doing together, that he's like, oh, I don't see, like when Ben has the same pining, it's not the same. He's not like, oh, yo-yos.
Yes, they have a thing about yo-yos, and Bev is better at yo-yo.
Oh, I have a whole like...
It did make me want ice cream, though, but not pistachio. I don't like pistachio ice cream, because she was eating ice cream when he found her.
No, I know. I was just trying to think about, like, was any of it pistachio? Or are you just like, man, no, I just remember that I hate pistachio. Because now I also kind of want some ice cream.
I just want, like, an ice cream cone and just, like, it's freezing right now.
Oh, yeah.
But
I want some pecan praline, man.
Yeah.
I want, like, that good, like...
So we need to go to the store after this and get ice cream cones.
Yes.
So, okay.
Oh, my God.
We got to finish this in because we need ice cream. Megan, I know you have ice cream.
Megan.
I know you've had emotional support ice cream.
Megan. Oh, Wentworth Tozier, though.
Richie does have some of the better parents in this book.
I am in love with Wentworth Tozier. Right here, right now, I'm putting it out there on audio. Wentworth Tozier. That is my boy. I fucking love that dude.
I'm sorry, all I can think of is fucking J.G. Wentworth.
But I also could only think of Edgeworth from the Phoenix Wright game. Like, that's kind of
fucking love Edgeworth.
Yes! But I also made the note, Wentworth Tozier, exclamation point. Oh my God, I fucking love the Toziers so much. Went and Richie and their mother are the absolute best.
Yeah, on the subject of names also, George's middle name was Elmer, which is Jake's dad's name.
Like, where are all these Elmers from? But the Toziers, I'm pretty sure, had moved.
Yeah.
Had moved to Derry, and I don't know that they were from Maine.
Yeah.
So they're out-of-towners. So they got weird names.
So yeah, the kids go to the movies.
Oh, before, I want to make point of my note that Bev is weirdly mean when asked about the yo-yo shit. when he's like, oh, who showed you how to do all your yo-yo tricks? And no one showed me. I just figured it out.
She's a middle schooler.
I don't understand.
There is no creature as evil as a child in middle school.
Oh, God. She's not mean like that at other times. But here she's like, fuck you. Like, I just figured it out, but I'll show you. Like, what? Why?
Pick me power up?
That's exactly why. Yep. Okay. You're right.
So yeah, those three go to the movies. Then we get to, eventually Richie and Bill go to the house on Neibolt Street to investigate what Eddie had saw. Here they encounter a werewolf with a jacket with Richie's name on it because, like, the movie that they saw was a werewolf movie and this is supposed to be Richie's, like, fear. The werewolf nearly gets Bill, but Richie's voice comes in finally, like, really comes in, and it seems to scare it with the capital IT. And they manage to get away on silver, though not totally unscathed, because pretty positive that Richie took a paw to the face.
Oh, I did also note, all of them have guns, and I noted the quote that if it thinks you're not being careful, the gun loads itself. So
yeah.
That was interesting to me. I said that a big gunslinger energy feels like good guy with a gun versus magic.
And the gun makes Neibolt House, like, less creepy. Like, staring down the gun makes the house with the monster in it less scary.
And you know what I realized? I think it's because we don't fight with swords anymore. The gun... So Roland's guns are melted down from Excalibur because we don't fight with guns or with swords anymore. So it makes more sense that it's if you're versus magic, if you're versus these things, you're not having swords. Kids aren't playing, well, some kids play with toy swords, but mostly, like, you're gonna feel more secure with a gun. But all the kids have guns. Like, it makes...
Well, except for Bill, who had to steal his dad's gun, because he brought a slingshot. That was the compromise with his mother for when they were playing with guns in stanza 11, going crazy with guns.
Because Bill, he has silver, but the others all have, even Bev has a gun.
Yep.
They're all gunslingers, essentially. It's the Kids on Bikes version of gunslingers.
Yeah. And Bill is starring with his, he would be David in that case. Because I'm assuming Goliath is the giant, right?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and then I also mentioned Ben is fat, Bev is hair, Richie is glasses. Because they just have very specific...
Oh, Richie also describes Ben as radiating goodness.
Yeah.
And there's just this, like, very similar to the narrator's energy from The Eyes of the Dragon with, like, Tom is not a bad boy. He is a good boy.
Yeah. And Bill is described as the biggest of them, the tallest of them, but he doesn't speak well. Roland is the same way. He's not verbose, but he's long, tall, and ugly, or whatever. The thing that Eddie will end up calling him, which is very interesting to me.
The next chapter is Bev's chapter, and she's also making her way to Derry. After she got away from her shitty-ass husband, she called a friend named Kay, who came and, like, helped get her set up and on her way to Derry.
Kay, who slightly made me think of your mom. In the best way.
No, I mean, Kay is an icon.
Yes.
We support Kay because, oh my God, Bev, why? And it's because Stephen King wrote Bev really poorly.
I feel like he tried.
I feel like he tried too, and I think that's what makes it so upsetting.
He leaned into a lot of, like, stereotypes that we even have now, like the idea of, you know, that the only thing that was your fault was not leaving sooner.
Yeah.
When what we know is that the most dangerous time for someone in a domestic violence situation is trying to leave.
Yeah.
And that it takes on average, I think, like 7 attempts to leave a domestic violence situation to actually safely and permanently sever those ties. But definitely, I don't want to say definitely because I don't know. It wasn't common. I don't even think it's common knowledge now, let alone in the 80s. And a lot of people have that misconception of like, well, why doesn't she just leave? I expect better of Stephen King because it's obvious that he does some level of research, but I don't know what was out there when he was doing this writing. I don't know what the common understanding was in the 1980s.
Yeah.
So I will hand to him, with the character of Kay, it does feel like he's trying to do something right by Bev, but also, fuck you, Stephen King, do better. And also, if you haven't apologized, do it. If you have and I just haven't seen it, I don't know. I still say do better. Like,
reading Bev's shit was really hard because she is so poorly written. And she is leaning into a lot of stereotypes.
yes.
And I think a lot of what people assume women just think like.
Yeah.
Because I was really just bothered by how much she objectifies herself. And I know that, you know, people do that. You get into your mind like, this is the only value I have. But I don't know that you'd still 24/7 just constantly be thinking about the boys you had a crush on in middle school, even in your situation right now, your shitty husband, and just constant objectification of yourself.
Yeah, it makes her feel less like a character in her own right.
Yes.
And more like just something like Patricia Uris was more of a character than Bev is.
Yes, exactly.
And it's just,
it's painful. It's really painful.
she really does deserve better.
Yeah. Because Bev is honestly a very cool character.
Could be.
No, yeah, she's got like this parts for it, and then they never realized it. Because honestly, I was also like, I'm a little bothered by what they did with her in the movie. Like as an adult, I feel like they really did not let her have a lot of things, like the fact that her mother is alive in the book.
Yes.
And in at least the 2017 and 2019 movies, Bev's mom is not a factor, but she is alive and at least still, as far as we've read, present in Bev's life. And it mentions that Bev's a reader. The movie did not give her anything.
Oh, and her dad being teetotal and just very strict to the point of physicality. I have to say, those parts, and I think it's why, I'll be honest, I forgot that it was her chapter. It made it harder because I looked at Bev from the movie and I saw my mom.
Yeah.
I read Bev in the book and I see me.
Yeah.
Because her dad reminded me so much more of my dad.
Yeah.
Because you knew my dad. Like, it's that thing of he thinks he's doing all the right things and that he's keeping his kids on the straight and narrow and shit. But in reality, it's so abusive and so wrong. And then he has a wife who's going no, this is how it is. But then also the whole thing of you didn't upset your father, did you? You didn't upset your father, did you? It was...
Well, and checking, has he ever touched you?
Yes! Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
That was insane. That was insane. And I don't know where it will go further in the book. It made the interpretation in the movie weird so far.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. But maybe further in the book,
yeah,
if things happen, maybe it will make the movie interpretation make more sense.
Yeah.
If her mom leaves, if her mom dies, I could see if her dad goes off the deep end, then it could make more sense. But currently, I'm what in the hell? The adult Bev, the character that Jessica Chastain plays in the new movies, I had really almost not liked how Jessica Chastain played her, but she's almost dead on to the character in the book. But the kid Bev, just has so little almost in common with the character in the book as we've seen so far.
Yeah.
That it's just, I can't
That
compare.
actress's name is Sophia Lillis?
I never remember.
You know what? She's that good of a fucking actress.
Yeah, no, she just kind of falls into whatever character she's doing.
She also looks a lot like one of my old shift leads at the movie theater.
Oh,
Like,
shit, really?
Yeah, more so in her, like, I had it a lot when we were watching Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, shit.
Because obviously she has a little bit of a different look.
Yeah.
But legitimately, I think, like, if you dyed her hair, she'd look almost identical to the shift leader who, like, it admitted that she didn't like me when I started, but that was because she didn't like anybody when they started. But yeah, so Bev's chapter, she's on a plane, she's going to Derry, and then she gets her flashback and she's in the bathroom and she hears sounds down the drain. Eventually, blood comes up from the drain and her parents can't see it. Yeah, her dad is abusive, but as soon as he, like, finds out, as soon as she lies and says that she saw a spider, he's like, oh, that's normal for girls. Sorry, you should have said something sooner.
Yeah. Which was also weird, like that whole don't be mentally weird, but now you're normal and that's fine.
Yep.
Like that was very trippy.
Yeah. Yeah, Al's an asshole. So the bathroom is covered in blood, but, you know, Bev just decides to avoid the bathroom for now. And then the next day, her and her mom have to clean, and thankfully her mom cleans the bathroom, so she doesn't have to keep looking at the blood. But, you know, her mom can't see it, so once she's done with her chores and her parents have both gone off to work, she does end up going out, and she runs into Eddie, Ben, and eventually Stan. Eddie and Ben are playing marbles with some kid who doesn't matter, and
that's right.
Bev, like, takes his money and he throws a fucking tantrum because he can't handle being beaten by a girl.
And they keep talking about the idea of, like, oh, this kid isn't part of it, and we can tell. Almost like they're in a quartet.
Yeah. He's not one of us.
You can't sit with us.
His name is Bradley Donovan, and he showed up at the end of, like, I think Bill's chapter or something. Like the last chapter that we read before these ones.
Well, he can't sit with them.
Yeah, no, he's not cool. Bradley sucks. He's been here twice, but we don't want to talk to him.
It's made me wonder a couple times if some of the kids in South Park are it kids. Because he made me think of Clyde Donovan. With his, like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually Stan shows up, and Stan is a part of it, so Stan is acceptable, and they all welcome him into the fold. Bev tells them about the bathroom blood.
Stan, their Jewish friend. Oh no,
Kyle's the Jewish one.
The Jewish friend. Shit! Oh, that's ruined my whole theory.
Or did they just change the name so Stephen King wouldn't notice?
Well, technically it is in Colorado, which is closer to the Overlook. I mean, how could Stephen King not notice? They all have the same fucking names. They're just he could have written it.
Maybe he did.
I need to know from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, or Trey Stone and Matt Parker. I think I had it right the first time.
I think you had it right the first time.
I need to know.
Hit us
Who
up.
the fuck is Cartman then? He can't be Ben.
Henry Bowers?
I was gonna say, he's Henry Bowers. Oh no, because there's the episode with the bully who is Henry Bowers that makes him eat pubes, or no,
So,
he doesn't eat pubes. He makes
he
him buy
Pennywise?
pubes. And then, oh. You know what? This is a theory for another day. I'm gonna have to look into this, folks.
So, yeah, Bev tells them about the bathroom blood. Then they all go clean up her bathroom, and they use some rags that now need to be washed. So they go to the laundromat. And that is where Stan starts to tell his story about his encounter with something that should not be. It was at a place that's identified as the Standpipe. And Stan had been going to do some bird watching, and he ends up finding a door. He goes through it.
Brilliant.
Some shit comes for him. And of all the things that could save him, it is his bird book that actually seems to be his shield. And that's how he gets away from whatever the fuck was chasing him, and it sounds like it was drowning boys, which means it was just it. That's what happened to Stan. And the kids try and tell Stan, like, oh, we should all go and tell Bill. And Stan's just like, look, I will go and help you with that shit, but then I'm out of this because I don't want anything to do with this.
An interesting quote pops up here that I caught it.
Which is impressive because they are listening to an audiobook, so it's you have to catch it.
I caught it. The quote that I caught is opens a crack in your thinking, and then the next bit that I caught, I mean I caught more than this, but this is the note that I have brought you because
if you want, I do know what I have marked. I can just give you the quote.
That'd be wonderful.
You can live with fear. I think Stan would have said if he could. Maybe not forever, but for a long, long time. It's a fence you maybe can't live with because it opens up a crack inside your thinking. And if you look down into it, you see there are live things down there and they have little yellow eyes that don't blink. And there's a stink down in that dark. And after a while, you think maybe there's a whole other universe down there. A universe where a square moon rises in the sky and the stars laugh in cold voices. And some of the triangles have 4 sides, and some have 5, and some of them have 5 raised to the 5th power of sides. In this universe, there might grow roses which sing, everything leads to everything, he would have told them if he could. Go to your church and listen to your stories about Jesus walking on water. But if I saw a guy doing that, I'd scream and scream and scream, because it wouldn't look like a miracle to me. It would look like an offense.
Obviously, we've talked about the Dark Tower is surrounded by a field of roses that sing.
Yeah.
And that, again, it's size that gets us. But what that also says to me is it's perspective. It's physics. And everything in what was just described there is physics, is perception of the world, right?
Yeah.
It's our world being like wrong. When Stan leaves everybody else, he has like the most normal life, I think.
Yeah.
Of all of them. He goes and he searches out the most average normal life, and we know what happens with him when he gets called back. Because he doesn't want this wider worldview, I think. But more than that, it's made me wonder, the note that I made is the reality where Roland exists a place that exists outside of physics? Or outside of the physics that we live within? It's a dimension outside. It's like the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension. We've talked about the idea of like, obviously, Stephen King is working within the quantum fields or whatever.
Yeah.
But within that, like, what makes quantum shit work is other dimensions that we only have the 3 or 4 if you want to get into time and shit like that. But that line, like that passage to me, from what we've read so far, is the most telling. And I think of the books that we've swapped to so far, this is the most directly related to the Dark Tower. I mean, even disregarding the mist, which very much seems like a portal, that shit from the Dark Tower world, like, bleeds through.
Well, I agree. Like, I feel like, especially in what we just read, because arguably, like, as I was typing everything up, I was like, I don't really have a whole lot to say about some of this stuff. At the same time, I have so much to say about this because things are finally feeling like they're falling into place. It's all coming together. Because I also did want to ask you about the door that Stan finds, because he just finds a door.
Yeah.
And I know that the cover of the drawing of the 3, there's door. I don't know what the door is. I didn't make it that far, I don't think. Or if I did, I don't remember it. But there's a door.
So, spoilers for the drawing of the 3, and spoilers for well, I don't think it's spoilers for the Gunslinger. I think that we've got through that portion. But at the end of the Gunslinger, when the Man in Black tells Roland, like, you have to gain the power of drawing, what he's referring to is drawing through doors. Mm-hmm. Is drawing through those doors, opening doors and portals into other Earths, other worlds, right?
Real fake doors.
I won't lie. Every time I see that on Rick and Morty, it's what it makes me think of. So that's why, like, in the 2017 movie, like, it doesn't bother, like, that they're using portals and shit. That imagery comes up all the time. Like, it's normal. It's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But as soon as the whole door thing came up, my fucking antenna immediately went up, because it almost made me wonder if Stan... But I don't know that it's Stan. There are just people who can draw and who can, you know, who do that with doors. Doesn't have to be Stan. Stan could have just found a door. He could have been... They could have been attempting to draw Stan through that door. And then he made it back through the other way. I'm not sure. It's hard because I am using an audiobook. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that's easily gone back to like,
yeah,
really scour. But I do think what was also interesting is there's another line, and I'm not sure if it's in the same section now, but dead boys that don't stay dead.
Oh, I think that might be in Richie. I think it might possibly be in Richie's, but it could be in this with Stan's.
Yeah, I think because you mentioned the drowning.
Yeah, because I think you might. Yeah, it must be with Stan, because that. Like, he hears like squishy feet, like shoes that are wet.
Yeah,
and people had drowned by the sandpipe. The
reason that I had thought of that, the whole dead boys that don't stay dead, and that I wrote it in the note in this section, is because it made me think. I actually wrote definitely Jake. So much of what gets described in this scene is just describing Roland's universe, where physics don't, like, they haven't worked right. Like, the world has moved on, is how they describe it, but it hasn't worked correctly in so long. And it makes you wonder if the reason it stopped working correctly is because it became overrun with its...
that can completely defy physics. And
break them.
Yeah, especially like when we talk about like the ending of at least the 2019 movie, where they neg him into being tiny. Because they start talking about it can only be as big as the space it occupies.
Yeah.
So you make the space it occupies small.
And I really wonder how that's going to shape up in this one.
Yeah. Bev goes home with her clean rags, takes her dad's tape measure to measure the drain. Shit happens with that, more blood. And she cleans that up. And then I believe she sits outside and cries. Interlude 2.
Which was super fucked up, but probably the best out of what we read, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So Interlude 2 gives us more insight to Derry, because we're back to Mike, kind of working on his History of Derry project. He gets around to telling us about the fire that happened in Derry. His father had told him the story when he was 15 while he was dying. And it is a place called the Black Spot, which had been a place that soldiers of color were eventually stuck going to after the Legion of Decency, which is just the KKK of Maine, had...
Was it or was it the Legion of, like, White Decency? Or was it just Decency?
I think it's of White Decency, but they started shortening it down to sometimes saying Legion of Decency or Legion, or just the Legion.
The Legion of D.
Because, you know, the drain said, "We are Legion."
Oh, shit, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. So, either way, the Legion of White Decency, which is just the KKK, they blocked them from going to other bars in town, and eventually, you know, the Black Spot attracted a crowd of all kinds of people. And the Legion doesn't like that, so they did what pieces of shit do. And they set the fucking place on fire while it was filled with people. But we get fucking, like, the joy of seeing our buddy Dick Halloran.
In all his youthful glory.
Yep, he is 19.
He's the famous mess cook for Company E. But if you think my brain wasn't singing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy through that whole section.
So to anybody who does not recognize the name Dick Halloran, where the heck have you been? He's the fucking cook at the Overlook who helps Danny.
I was just going to say, you will. Like total Yoda status. You will.
So yeah, we're gonna see Dick again, and I think he might pop up in another book too.
I'm sorry. We're gonna see so much Dick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Just Dick for days.
Unsolicited Dick.
And solicited Dick. Unsolicited makes it sound like it's not wanted.
Dick Halloran actually is also the one who ends up saving Will with his his shine, I assume, because he gets them a safe way out of the fire. And we also find out that the night of the fire that Will saw the same bird that Mike saw. Will also tells us a little bit about like why he came back to Derry, because Mike's question is like, why would you move here? They're so racist. And that's why he explains that his time in the military, being stationed in Derry, just left an impression on him. He learned how to fucking, like, deal with the pieces of shit.
Like Butch Bowers.
Yeah. That is the end of what we read, but I have some things I need to say.
Oh, no. Okay.
The first is, and you will understand this, Taryn. Listeners may not understand this, but I will strongly encourage you to actually go and read these books after this. Do you think Simon R. Green ripped this fucking off? Here's my arguments.
Yeah.
Okay. Richie defeats the werewolf with his sneezing powder. Like, he gets away. That's in his pocket. Much like John's, like, salt and pepper mix in his pocket. It's not pocket sand, but it's kind of pocket sand. That's the first thing. The voice. Walker. He has the voice.
Yeah. He's also Walker, not unlike the Man in Black, but yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mysterious and all-powerful, and he has to be defeated a specific way.
Yeah.
Susie, the way she ends up getting saved is with werewolf blood. Like, that's, like, how she ends up having to, like, heal. John's in her eye, I would argue, is a shine. I've always thought that, though.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, and also the way that his enemies can see him
exactly.
when he uses it.
Exactly. Yeah. His ass gets tracked with that inner eye. John left the night side and then had to come back. And the terms, the night side of Derry, came up in this book multiple times. John eventually gets Excalibur. Spoiler, sorry. It's night side books. You're getting spoilers right now. And also this idea that John is like the son of evil. Because he's...
Yeah.
More spoilers! He's the son of Lilith. Just this, like, compounding, like, things. Not a full rebuff, but I feel like Simon R. Green clearly seems like he might be a Stephen King fan and a real big fan of It.
I mean, Razor Eddie.
Razor Eddie?
And Eddie. I don't think he's just a fan
Dead Boy?
of It. Oh, I already was thinking Dead Boy. I was just
Best
holding
character.
it in.
Best fucking character.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that it's so much a ripoff as much as many things might be homages or might be purposeful. It might be like, look, it's the
night side of Derry.
It's more like it's a Easter egg kind of thing. Just a lot of them. Because I almost feel like the bartender, Alex
who is the son of Merlin. Or not son, but descendant of Merlin.
Descendant of Merlin, but kind of gives Stephen King vibes, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
He kind of just gives vibes of every Stephen King dude.
Okay,
yeah,
headcanon.
If you love Stephen King, like, read them and prove us wrong. Or read them and join us.
Yeah, I kind of want to reread them. I haven't read them in a while.
They're short.
They are short. And they're amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first thing I needed to get out of me because I was...
God, I need to reread them too. I haven't read them in so long.
Yeah.
I think I restarted one of them the other night, but that's neither here nor there.
They're so good.
Yeah. I think I had like the third one on my Kindle just randomly, so...
That one was okay. Second one's still my favorite.
Yeah, I think I had just started because I'm like, I think I like skimmed this and didn't give it enough of a chance. So.
Yeah. You know, I think the best part about the third one, I think that one has the most Dead Boy in it. I think it's when he's like the sidekick.
Yeah.
That's the best part of that book then, because Dead Boy is not in those books nearly enough. Regardless. That's for the Simon Green podcast, who also interconnects his worlds, by the way, because we've got the Night Side, which connects to the Death Stalker, I think is what it's called, and then also connects to his, like, secret histories, and I'm pretty positive his Ishmael Jones.
So what you're saying is we have another podcast we have to do.
Yes, and those books are much shorter.
Yes, no, they really are.
They're, like, we can do, like, a book an episode.
Yeah.
Maybe not of the secret histories or the Death Stalkers. Those ones, I think, get thicker. But of the Night Side.
Yeah, the Night Side's pretty easy to...
So, anywho, so I mentioned that I felt like this is where things were really just starting to fall into place.
Yeah.
And that there are a few things. We did talk about the Singing Roses. On the subject of the Singing Roses, because this was before we got to that point, when they get to the house on Nybalt Street, when Richie and Bill get there, Richie mentions that it seems like the sunflowers are almost singing, like... that the boys have, like, returned.
Yeah. I noticed that, too, but then it fell off from you when Singing Roses got mentioned. I was like, oh, no. Like...
Yeah, no, and I think that that's what's interesting, because he's also describing, like, these sunflowers make him uncomfortable because they're bloated, and I know we've talked, like, off this, because you've talked about, like, the representation of the sunflowers in the movie.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's interesting because sunflowers and roses are very different kinds of flowers. Yeah. The other thing that gets mentioned at the house on Nybalt Street, which I think might be a more stronger connection to something else, but I don't know. When he's going into the cellar after they've gotten under the porch and Bill is trying to help him. And Richie gets scared because he thinks that it's got him. And Bill goes, well, what did you think it was? And he goes, the boogeyman. In March of 1973, I think it was, Stephen King wrote a short story called The Boogeyman, which is like now released as a movie a bit ago. And like it's published, it was published in a magazine then, now it's a Night Shift, which I don't have hands on yet, but it's on the way. And I don't know if maybe the boogeyman in that story, some of the impression there is supposed to be a boogeyman in it, is an it. So if they got overrun with it, or if it just was there, or that story takes place in Derry.
Yeah.
Is it a short story of Derry? An early story of Derry at that point, because it was 1973, so it's even before The Gunslinger. On the subject of the werewolf also, book that bothered Patricia of Bill's that Stan had, I think it was one that had a werewolf on it. Like it made her uncomfortable. Because Stan went and got all of Bill's books. Because he was a good friend.
So, I feel like the fact that werewolves are really kind of taking this weird...
Yeah.
Like, center stage is interesting. Because doesn't what happened in Derry happen on like a 28-year cycle?
Yeah, I think so.
And a lunar cycle is 28 days.
Stephen King also has a short story that I think is called, like, Cycle of the Werewolf.
Yeah, and not only that, but a werewolf is somebody who is a person who walks among you and then takes on this, like, form, generally.
Yeah.
Which is something that you don't... I mean, you kind of see of Pennywise a little bit, at least in the movie. Pennywise suggests of himself, like, he has a name.
Bob Gray?
Bob Gray is one of the names that he's given for sure. I don't remember if that was the same when he gave Georgie.
It is the same when he gave Georgie.
Is Bob Gray somebody who is walking amongst them and then cycling to Pennywise every 28 years? Because it's similar to the lunar cycle. Like, there's something about every 28 years...
That's interesting.
That, like, turns him into Pennywise. Can he create other Pennywises? Like, does he have to... Because werewolves also infect. It's just odd that if the book is about a werewolf, like, that's coming up so often.
Yeah.
Especially since Richie so far seems like one of the more sensitive of them. It's the fact that he has like the voices and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I think it was in the interlude. They mentioned two names of other people. Well, not two names. Two other kids that have gotten missing or killed. And one of them is Dennis Torrio. And then there's a girl with a sled. And obviously, like, he would have been writing, I think, The Eyes of the Dragon possibly around now. Because if this was 80 to like 85 that he's writing this book.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we should be covered because he did the first version in 84. So we have Dennis, and then a girl with a sled, and obviously it's not a dog sled, but it's Naomi.
Still, yeah.
So that stood out too. Stan mentions when he is doing his bird watching before he goes to the standpipe that he had asked his dad if his dad thought the birds talked to each other. And I'm just going to reiterate again that the sound that the bird that attacked Mike made is the same sound that Zoltan made, which is the same sound that the thing in Desperation makes, which is the language of the dead. And all they're saying is big, big, big. But it is a language of the dead, at least in the Stephen King universe.
Yeah.
The last thing that I think really just feels like it brings so much together, because like we've read enough Stephen King at this point that things are feeling like they are just starting to stitch together. And it was I think it's Will says to Mike, or it's something that Mike observes and writes just in general. It's in the interlude, but regardless, he says something about how the voice that tells the story is what's actually important. And we know we have narrators who have been our characters. You know, is Mike the narrator for all of the parts of this or just the interludes? I don't know. He could be. He would then be our voice. The narrator was very much a character in The Eyes of the Dragon. But on top of all of that, I think it also validates the distrust we have in people like Roland as a narrator and Paul Sheldon as a narrator.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily about the story. It's about the voice who tells the story. If Paul Sheldon was a fucking liar, we're fine.
If you can believe that Paul Sheldon is a fucking liar, and I know I can.
I can too.
That's easy for me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I can easily believe that Paul Sheldon maybe didn't fucking like keep shit on the up and up. I think it's the same with Roland.
Yeah, I don't know that Roland is a liar so much as Roland just doesn't.
He doesn't even know what's happening.
No, he's giving what he has. But Roland will be the first to describe himself as kind of a moron. Maybe not in those terms, but...
Thank God. Anywho, that's all I had.
It's card time, people. Last time we pulled Seven of Pentacles, which encouraged us to look towards long-term investments. So we kept on with this big-ass book.
We sure did.
Now let's see what the cards hold for our reading journey as we continue. Today I have pulled the Six of Swords.
Ooh, a sword.
Yes.
I don't get swords often.
On this card is a man. You can only see these people from their backs. It's a man piloting like a gondola. There is a person, like a hooded figure and a child on the gondola that is just covered in swords. And they're on some, I'm guessing lake, but it could be a large river. Just going along. I'm only guessing gondola because he has like a big old stick as he's going, but really it could be some kind of boat that he's just going along with.
He brought his wand to a sword boat.
It sure does seem that way.
Well, the Six of Swords. Six is a symbol of transformation. Well, transition. Huh. So we are transitioning. And that checks out.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a story that's bouncing back and forth between children and adults. It encourages reflecting on the past, turmoil, letting go of it, and moving towards a new future.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the next section is called like grown-ups, isn't it?
So too. So what we are going to be reading next is part 3, which is titled Grown-ups.
Wow.
Yes, we are doing all of part 3 and interlude 3.
The cards are prophetic once again. Well, I suppose it's about that time that you get on out of here and go on. Because there's many more worlds. You gotta go find them. I love you.
And don't lie. If you didn't find them, you don't get to mark them down in your book. Stan would know.
Stan would fucking know.
You can follow us on Instagram at ManyConstantWorlds. You could DM us if you have any thoughts, questions, things you'd like to put out there. You can also email us at manyconstantworlds@gmail.com.